Today we are talking about marshmallow right here in my backyard in Central Florida. My name's Maggie O'Halloran and I'm one of the educators at the Florida School of Holistic Living. We are in my backyard and we're going to talk about Materia Medica, which means talking about growing and how I use the plant marshmallow. If you want to check it out, marshmallow here, Aloe Officinalis, these beautiful white flowers, the green leaves, and the way they're situated on each of those stems. So in Central Florida today, we're experiencing a lot of rain, so we're going to stay right here by the table where our speaker won't get rained on if that happens. And we'll talk about a plant that I really enjoy growing here. As an herbalist and an educator and a person who really likes being in the kitchen, it's lovely to have a plant like marshmallow that can go all of those places with me. It's really gentle. Aloe Officinalis, the botanical name, lets you know that it's a part of the Greek apothecary. So we know it has historical significance as a medicine for a really long time. We also know that it was commonly used by the Egyptians, the Syrians, and the Arabians. And it was used for different ailments, both taken internally and used topically. And we'll talk about some of those things that I've heard about since then later on, but just to go over a little bit of growing information, because I know some of you are here for that. Go ahead and comment if you're growing Aloe Officinalis or marshmallow in Central Florida or anywhere really. I want to start with a book by Tammy Hartung. It's called Homegrown Herbs. It's a really wonderful book if you live not in Zone 9B like we are here now, but it can be really helpful even in Zone 9A or 9B where I am now for getting ideas and thoughts and inspiration, but I definitely try to use my more local resources when thinking about how to grow it here in Central Florida. So as you can see in her book, it's listed as happiest in zones 5 through 8. And like I said, in Central Florida here, I'm in 9B. So the way that it grows here is a little bit different than the way that you might experience it if you grow in zones 5 through 8. So here in Central Florida, I can plant it in the spring from a seedling. Usually I don't typically just sow it into my garden by seed. I typically put starters in the ground in the spring, and it lasts a lot of the summer and can be really happy, but at some point in time the moisture level takes it out, and then I often find it growing back in that same area again the following year. It can be happy in sun or part sun or some shade even. It does need a little bit of light, especially if you want to get those gorgeous flowers. It can grow up to 3 to 4 feet, and it's considered a herbaceous perennial in most places. It really likes open meadows that have access to water and more loamy soil than we typically have here in Central Florida. In Central Florida, we have a lot of sand, which makes it really great for drainage for a lot of our plants. But marshmallow would really like to have a little bit more nutrients in the soil. So I like to amend it a little bit, maybe add some worm tea or some compost to the soil where I'm planting marshmallow. Any questions, be sure you ask them in the comment section, and I'll get to them live if possible. If you're viewing this on YouTube, then you can go ahead and comment, and I'll try to get back to those questions as well. So the parts used on this plant are all of it. So the flowers are edible, and they can be pretty tasty if you like cooling, moistening, nibbly things like okra. Marshmallow is in the same family as okra, so if you like eating okra as much as I do directly from the plant, then you might enjoy those marshmallow flowers. The leaves are also used medicinally, and the leaves, you can take a leaf and you can dry them like I have them here, or you can take a fresh leaf, you can chew it up a little bit and make a poultice for hot bug bites like a mosquito bite or something like that, because it's very cooling and moistening. So if it's dry, you just add a little bit of water and let it moisten, and then you can apply that and cover it with a Band-Aid. Remember, nothing in this video should ever come between you and your medical provider and your decision making. This is all historical information or education purposes only, and how I've used it in my life, really. So marshmallow, fresh or dried, leaves make really lovely tea. You could also eat them, like you could throw them into your food, and that's true for your okra leaves as well. The root is edible and medicinal, and we'll get more into the historical medicinal uses in a minute, but I just want to let you know that marshmallow is often used as a vegetable for a lot of people still around the world. And if you are into using your food as medicine is your food, then marshmallow is definitely a plant that you want to get to know a little bit better. So marshmallow root. If you're growing it, I typically harvest the root after it has died back a little. If you are in zone 5 through 8, that would be either at the end of spring or in fall. If you're in Central Florida, that's sometime in the middle of the summer. Once it's died back, the leaves start showing signs that they are collecting their nutrients into their root. That's when you want to harvest it. And you would cut back as much as you can off the top, and then gently using garden forks or tines, get in, because the roots can be really long and kind of stringy. So you want to pull those out. And once you have them, you can either use them that way, put the whole root after you wash it well into soup stock or something like that, or you can chop it up and dehydrate it, which is how I typically have it in my life, as the root, because there's only so much I can grow at one time here in my urban herbal oasis, as folks have come to call our backyard. There's the rain. So drying herbs, especially in Central Florida, you really have to think about all of the moisture we have in the air, and this is true anywhere. Just making sure that you get all of the moisture content out of it before you put it in the jar. And my favorite way to know that I've gotten all of the moisture out is put it in the jar and put the lid on and leave it out on a counter overnight and see if any condensation happens on the inside of the jar, because just being inside the jar with the lid closed, you'll see the water accumulating on the outside. Okay? So high in vitamins and minerals, to name a few: calcium, iodine, iron, sodium, vitamin A and B complex. Who knew the start of a sweet treat could have all of those nutrients in it? So marshmallow, it's cooling, moistening, and in terms of how it's used historically or medicinally, think about marshmallow as being like aloe for your insides. And it's true that marshmallow can be really soothing and comforting to the outside or topically, like that bug bite I mentioned before. But think about marshmallow as being aloe for your insides as well. So digestive tract, throat, urinary tract, soothing, moistening. So dry, itchy, scratchy throat. My dear herby friend Nina DiCristina talks about using her favorite way of utilizing marshmallow is by making a nice long infusion. So putting the plant material into a jar, covering it, filling the jar with that water, and letting it steep 2 to 4 hours. So some people say that if you want to access that aloe-like mucilage, that it needs to be cold water, and other people say hot water is fine. So you do what feels right for you, and then you let it sit for 2 to 4 hours for that long infusion. And then you strain it, and you'll see it has this nice light color. Marshmallow steeped for a long time isn't going to give you the same color as like a black tea or even green tea in the color of the liquid. This is a fully steeped marshmallow infusion. It's been steeping for a few hours, and then I would strain it. My favorite strainer is one that comes with a mug. I see them everywhere. They come with the mug and usually a lid, but if you take it out, it looks like this. It's the perfect size for a lot of my jars. So it fits right there. I don't have to hold it. It hangs out, and I can strain my marshmallow root long infusion. You can have leaf long infusion, that's fine. A lot of folks believe that the roots are more potent in their medicine, and we'll get more into the medicine in a minute. So you have this nice long infusion, and you may not be able to tell through the screen, but even when I'm straining it, you can tell it has that thick mucilage. Oops. In the liquid that's going to just be super soothing to the throat and the digestive tract. If you were here, I'd let you feel this and play with it. It feels slimy, a little bit like okra, really. If you've ever played with the insides of okra, it feels like that. It's slippery and slimy, and that's what it's going to do to help my insides. I can also take this liquid, dip a nice linen cloth in it, and apply it topically to like a sunburn to be really soothing. It can be really nice. Or put it in a little spray bottle and spray and keep it in the cooler and spray it on that warm sunburned skin. I'm going to sip some right now though. So delicious. Okay, marshmallow, medicinally soothing, thinking aloe for your insides. It's also considered antitussive. So if you've ever had that dry winter cough where nothing seems to be happening except for heat and roughness coming out, marshmallow can be really helpful for that. It just soothes that. And the term antitussive means that it stops a cough, and the marshmallow isn't going to be as strong and antitussive as a lot of other plants. It's more soothing that dry, itchy, scratchy experience so that you can get to a place of being a little more productive in the cough. Is there a question?
How much of the infusion should you drink per day?
So there was a question about how much of the infusion you should drink per day. And generally, herbalists will say, it's 1 quart per day for any of the ways that we've used herbs like this. And you could also think of it as being a half to 1 cup every 2 to 4 hours. So I could sip on this throughout the day would be the goal. You also want to think about marshmallow because it has that aloe or mucilage effect on the inside of the body. It can also inhibit the absorption of other things, especially medications. So sometimes you'll see it contraindicated with medications, but that's really about absorption. Because if you think about that aloe mucilage effect, if it's covering your insides, you don't want it to inhibit the absorption of any medications or nutrients or anything like that. So it's generally considered a good idea to space it out, you know, take medication 2 hours before or 2 hours after chugging a quart of Marshmallow. And remember that you have a lot of stomach acid and a lot of things that are going to be working with you in that way. So it's general guidelines. There's no hard and fast rule. It's just something to keep in mind. So great for soothing inside and outside, sunburns, rashes, hot, inflamed skin. Make sure to comment if you have questions. And I want to show you this Paul Pitchford book. It's called Healing with Whole Foods. And we're thinking about marshmallow as food being your medicine and medicine being your food. Paul Pitchford talks a lot about the overlap between food and health. And I find myself referencing this book a lot in our home. I wanted to point out 2 sections in this book. One is where Paul Pitchford talks about using or incorporating marshmallow for dry cough. In this book, the author is overlapping traditional Chinese medicine and more energetic-based healing modalities with foods. And so it is described as deficiency yin of the lungs, and we know that to mean a dry cough. So marshmallow is indicated there. And then Paul Pitchford also talks about the use of marshmallow in the stomach and intestines, specifically for stomach fire. And I really feel like that description is a wonderful way to describe the experience in the stomach, that marshmallow can be helpful in soothing. So using that long infusion can be one way that you use it to support soothing that stomach fire. A long infusion of either the leaf or the root. Do you make long infusions? Comment below or ask questions. Tell me what you're making long infusions with. So you could also make syrups with the leaf or the root. There's another preparation of marshmallow that you can find in almost any health food store or your herb provider or from your backyard if you're growing it. With the roots, you're not just cut and sifting it. You're taking it to the next level of preparation, and that's to powder. And with the marshmallow root powder, it becomes portable. So marshmallow root powder is where the root is just pulverized. So you can put it in a really strong food processor or blender if you have it, or get it from your local leaves and roots or local herbal apothecary. With the root powder, you can add it to a little bit of honey. Enough honey to make it so that you can get it into a little ball. And you can either use the little ball for that dry mouth, soothing the sore throat in that way, or if you want it to have a little bit more of a shelf life, you put those pastilles of marshmallow root powder and honey into a dehydrator. You may be able to put it on a pan, make these little balls like half inch, quarter inch, half inch round balls onto a pan and put it into the oven, leave the oven door open a little bit and let the light, the pilot light, or super low temperature, if you have that setting below 100 degrees, to dry out that pastille. And then your shelf life is much, much longer, 6 months. In the refrigerator, you can keep it in. I had a friend that would make these and keep them in old Altoids tins. You just open it up and you can still use that wax paper, and then you have a little bit of the mint and the marshmallow at the same time, because all the Altoids are gone and possibly never bought again, and you're just using those, the marshmallow pastilles. Another way that can be helpful for situations like that your doctor has diagnosed things like GERD or acid reflux, and you know that it's because of an overproduction of stomach acid and not an underproduction of stomach acid, but you can have marshmallow root powder in a little jar in your bag and a shot glass, and you take about a teaspoon of that marshmallow root powder, you put it into that shot glass, add a little bit of water, enough to get it swirling around, and take a shot of it and feel it soothing the throat and the top of the stomach, all the way down, just soothing so that healing can happen in your body. So that is the powder and a couple of really helpful ways in soothing the digestive tract. You can also, believe it or not, make marshmallows. Now, these marshmallows are not actually contain marshmallow. I would not recommend incorporating these into a healthy lifestyle. These are 100% sugar and should not be confused with the potentially medicinally soothing qualities of the marshmallow plant. As tasty as they are, you can tell my mouth waters a little bit. Originally, these products that are no longer of any health benefit were actually made by marshmallow. So marshmallow, there are lots of recipes. You can find them all over the internet, different recipes that you can use. I wanted to show you two that I've actually used and can vouch for. I wouldn't expect the same experience as those sugar-filled puff balls that toast so nicely on the end of a stick, but they can be really nice, especially if you're working with kids or adults who really like the sweetness, because both of these recipes do require a lot of sugar. You just have less of the other ingredients that maybe make marshmallows less than healthy. So in this recipe from, I forgot to show the book, Leslie Tiara's book, A Kid's Herb Book, and this book is not just for kids. They do a really nice job of offering recipes that can be fun for anyone to do in their kitchen, and especially great gift for that 12 to 13-year-old herbalist who would really like to be independent in their learning. This book can be really helpful because it keeps things super simple and it has a lot of ingredients that you probably already have in your home, like an oven and eggs. And I don't know of any vegan recipes, so if you're opposed to using eggs, please try it out with your egg alternative. I'm fairly certain that the flax egg alternative doesn't work in this. I've tried it, but maybe some other egg alternative that you have would be helpful. And then you're beating in some vanilla and you're adding so much sugar, half a cup, and you're putting these in dollops onto the cookie sheet and baking them. So that is one super simple marshmallow recipe. I wouldn't expect the squishy fireside type of marshmallow. This is more of an herbal experience. Another recipe that is equally, if not more, sugar infused comes from the Herb Fairies cookbook. This cookbook is free on the Learning Herbs website. We have no affiliation with any of these authors. They're just a part of my resource library and I like sharing them. So in this recipe, it gives you a chance to think about other herbs that you can add. So this is rose and marshmallow root. So rose hydrosol, once you have the rose hydrosol as part of the ingredients, you could sub it for any other hydrosol. I'm thinking rose is nice with a little hibiscus flower to make them pink, but you could also do like lemon balm hydrosol and make them a little bit more lemony. But it's really up to you to come up with super creative ways of incorporating marshmallows into your life while getting a chance to work with this plant in a little bit more healthy way than those bags of marshmallows. And this recipe, I will say, is a little easier because you're basically pouring everything into a pan and then slicing them at the end. And the consistency of this recipe is a little bit closer to the vegan marshmallows that are more square in form, or sometimes I've had our local food co-op will have locally made marshmallows, and they're much closer to the experience of working with this recipe. This is Herb Fairies from Learning Herbs. So thank you for being in my garden today. It's always lovely to get a chance to have people here and talk about the plants that I know and love and really appreciate having in my garden. Today we talked about marshmallow, flower, that eating it tastes a lot like okra. We talked about the leaf and the root and using it as teas and really long infusions, and those pastilles or candies, and finally marshmallows, which are kind of my favorite. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to comment, ask questions, subscribe to our channel, and if you want to get more into marshmallow, we have our Roots of Herbalism course that includes marshmallow in the program there. And make sure to reach out if you have any questions, either through commenting in this video or reaching out directly right here, Maggie at holisticlivingschool.org. And I look forward to seeing you. I look forward to seeing you in my garden again. Until next time, bye.